Hey everyone. Just wanted to give a brief update. It's been several months since I had my ileostomy takedown. That would have been at the end of June, and now I'm at the beginning of February. So I'll do the math and put that in the title for exactly how long it's been. I had planned to do a 6-month video, but uh, with timing, it's been kind of difficult. I'm currently in medical school, so I don't really have the time as much as I had hoped. But I really wanted to put something together. I also felt like I didn't have a lot to share as far as updates because the changes have been slow as time goes on. But then I also had some other complicating factors that made it hard to know what was true to my ileostomy recovery. So overall, my healing has been really great. I'll put up a picture of what my current healing looks like. I have been using the creams to help with some of the scarring appearance. So I do think that has helped some. And I've definitely noticed some changes in how it has been healing. It's looking less red and more of like a kind of a light purpley color for me and my skin complexion. And definitely the surgery scars themselves have shrunk. So that's been nice to see. Um, so that's doing a lot better as far as return of some regularity to bowel movements. Definitely I've seen that coming back. And my complicating issue is I developed postpartum thyroiditis, which makes you have hyperthyroidism at first. There's nothing really to treat that. And then you become, you have hypothyroidism, which is the opposite side of the GI issues. So, but then you do become medicated with that. And I feel like my poor bowels are like so confused on what to do because it usually takes you 6 months after you have this ileostomy takedown for you to find your new normal. So when I'm having all these extra hormones in my body and things that are changing how my GI system is working, I think it's kind of made things a little bit more convoluted. So so that's been kind of murky. I do feel like for a while things were normalizing. I definitely wasn't at my baseline before all of this. I was definitely having at least one bowel movement a day, but they were non-urgent and they were formed. So it felt like I was getting back to normal in that way. Then things kind of got out of hand, but now I've been medicated for about a month. So I'm starting to kind of like normalize where I should be, and my GI system should be kind of getting back on track. I just don't know how generalizable that information is, but in general, I think it has been getting better as a whole. I do still have days, it seems like, where I do have to go to the bathroom more frequently, and it is quite loose. And I think some of that too is not following, like that low residue diet. And I am eating or drinking things that you typically do avoid when you want to make sure that you're not having those issues. For me, it's caffeine, which I feel like I am surviving on. So it's not really something I can easily give up right now. Or I don't feel like I can, or I'm not ready to do so. So something that I've been doing that's been really helpful is I've been continuing with Imodium, specifically taking the combination of Imodium and Gas X, because I also felt like I was having a lot of like gas buildup too over the last few months. Um, Definitely like a lot of like stomach rumbles after I eat. And yeah, and of course, I don't know how much of that is from my thyroiditis versus being like status post ileostomy takedown. But if that is something that you're still struggling with, I think that would be helpful. Maybe still taking like the Metamucil bars or eating the fiber bars is another option too, and something that I've been thinking about. But mentally, it's kind of hard to go back there, right? So I think, a lot of these videos, well, in these videos, I've talked a lot about like the the medical aspect and like the, pain and the bowel movements and sleep. And all those things are really important. And especially when you're this far out, and at least my healing course is, I still getting a little regulated, but it's not something that I'm worried about. It doesn't disrupt my day, and not having to plan my day anymore around being close to the bathroom for the most part, especially if I am taking that Imodium Gas X pill in the morning. It's not really something I have to worry about as much anymore, which is phenomenal. I'm no longer on any pain medication or Tylenol, which is phenomenal. Sleeping at night is no longer a problem. After that surgery, there's so much pain when you're like trying to lay on your side, and it's like the gravity is like pulling at your abs because they've been separated. And then laying on your back hurts for so long because it's the only position you can really sleep in. And just getting in and out of bed was the absolute worst, at least for me. So, um, so that's a lot, right? So I think a lot of like this current journey I'm on is dealing with the emotional, mental, existential aspect afterwards. Because it's medical trauma. That is going through all of that. And then, especially for people who have had cancer journeys and or had extensive surgeries or repeated surgeries, this is all medical trauma. And there is so much within that, and a lot of things that are a lot of like, it really affects you, and I think it really changes you as a person. It changes your perspective on life, on how you navigate life, how you interact with others, um how you view the world, how you view, just touches on all these systems, right? So I think a lot of the journey after you get to this point is coming to terms with what you've been through. And I think there's times where you think you step back and you're almost like, wow, like I can't believe I used to do this. Or sometimes when I'm like in the bathroom and I just think like I'll tear up and I'll be like, I can't believe like just a few months ago I was, having my stool go into a bag. And how difficult that was emotionally, and then some of my toughest days going through that, and when it would leak. um and that's a lot, right? And so thinking about that, and then thinking about how difficult it was to for me to walk, like, and I still need to like talk about the full journey a different day. um Yeah. The idea of, one of the best recommendations, and one thing I did just to feel better, was to wear an adult diaper, because I was terrified of having an accident, and having an accident in public or in my car. So, yeah, thinking back of like, being someone in my younger 30s with no previously healthy, suddenly having to wear diapers is a lot to like think about. So, yeah, it's a lot. And another big piece of it for me is that part of my medical experience, um, when I went into the surgery for or to get the ileostomy, which was an emergent surgery, middle of the night, after I'd been in the hospital and had almost died already in an OR. In that same encounter, I was terrified I was never going to wake up. And I literally almost died initially during the first surgery. And I was on a form of like life support to keep me alive. So being faced with your own mortality and being so close to death, and then kind of coming to terms with that as well. Also, this is very specific to like my journey right now, but being in medical school, it's probably one of the worst places to be, or if you work in a hospital or specific area too. But being here is very triggering too, because then all these things come up that remind me of it, going to the cadaver lab and we're looking at part of the colon that I had removed, or we but the lecture beforehand when we talked about it, like that's a lot. um Other pieces of my medical journey too, kind of leading up to it, has been a lot too. um just the toll it takes being in the hospital, talking about hospitalized patients, it's just a lot. So, but one of the biggest or most frequent triggers for me, and what I imagine a lot of people also have, whether you're at the same stage that I'm at or if you still have the ileostomy, is you can't really escape it, right? Because sometimes with trauma or prior trauma, you kind of like pick it up and you um are dealing with it, and then you kind of put it back down because maybe you have like other things going on. The frequency of what you pick up your trauma and you're like dealing and thinking with it varies. um but with something like this, you're frequently having to pick it up, right? Because for me, every time I get dressed or I go to the shower, especially because a small bathroom, and I would take off my clothes and look in the mirror, even without my glasses, and you can sure see that scar, my disfigured belly button from, being pregnant, right, being immediately postpartum and having my belly button flipped out from my pregnancy, and then how, because of the way it was when they did the incision, it caused quite a deformity in my belly button. So that's been really tough. But yeah, just seeing that right before I jump in the shower. And then for me, I kind of think a lot in the shower, you know, um, in general. So I spend the whole time almost in the shower, just like ruminating or thinking about like the surgery or things that happen or my recovery. And it's really sad. Like I'm just like kind of stuck in that. And it's not so bad now, but when I would go to bed at night, I would just ruminate for hours thinking about things that went poorly or things I wish went differently. Um, how I almost died. All these things. So what I'm getting at is that as you heal physically, there's definitely a mental health, emotional component that is a longer healing process. And I myself am still on that journey for sure. Anyone hearing me like right now could hear that like I'm still not quite okay. Um, but that doesn't mean I'm not trying to do other things to move past it, deal with it, or trying to work on initiatives that hopefully make things better for other people or raise awareness, um, which also helps me in a cathartic way as well. So, like I'm giving a talk to the hospital I used to work at, here in a couple months about my experience and what it's like to be a patient as somebody who was providing healthcare as a member of the healthcare team, and then also as a future doctor. Things that I learned that, I thought really knew, was really empathetic to the patient experience. And then when you are a patient, yeah, you realize that it's like the iceberg effect. Like you think you know it all, but you're really missing like that whole component, right? Anyway, so, um, yeah, I guess some last things I guess I want to say about my journey and then wrapping up is, I feel like at this point I've been able to do some exercising, not really as like heavy duty as I want to or hardcore. Not that I've ever been really a hardcore exerciser, but trying to do something to get my stomach back into shape a little bit more. um, but at first it was really painful around my stoma site. So, but I also was pushing myself, I think, a little too hard. So I think now is like a good time to continue doing that. So that is one of my goals. Um, so yeah, overall, I feel like there's been a lot of progress, a lot of changes One thing that I really thought in my head, like my mantra during the whole thing, is that when I was in the hospital, I would say, um, "I can't wait for this to be a bad memory." And, that kinda helped me get through it, and so I definitely feel like I'm in that space where it is a bad memory. I'm still dealing with the after effects, but I'm very grateful for where I am now, especially, like, thinking about how bad it was. So, um, yeah, I think there's a lot of, feeling grateful. Things could have been so much worse. I'm grateful to be alive. Um, I'm grateful to even like have a space to like share my experience and that things that I've learned, things that I'm thinking about with other people who are going down the same path. I'm grateful that I can provide my insights to a large hospital, that they can maybe take some seeds of my story and help them provide better care to patients, whether they're going through the same situation or, their same themes. I'm also really grateful that I will have a better understanding as a doctor when I get there, of what it's really like. And I was definitely an empathetic person before, but it's very different when you've been through it for sure. And I hope that my future patients feel that too. So, um, So yeah, I think for me, it's the reframing of it, reframing the experience to being something positive. I call it like silver threads. It's not even like silver lining necessarily, but finding the silver threads of like, yeah, this was like awful situation that I went through. But what are the silver threads, the very small and like good things that came out of it? Um, and so finding that for me has been really helpful in helping me heal and get past it and not just get like stuck about like this like woe is me um depressive state. So trying to find those things. And even if it's as small as saying like, if anyone else in my life or if I happen to know of anyone going through it, I can reach out to them and I can be a source of support for them, which I had that experience with somebody with a similar surgery after a friend of a friend. And that's really built a really strong friendship there. Um, so even that, um, just being like mindful of like what it's like to go through any kind of like scary healthcare encounter. Because we're gonna have, even if we don't know anyone now, we will know people in our lives that will go through such scary encounters. And we know what it's like sometimes to feel alone or what it's like to not have people that really know what it's like. And you can reach out and be that source of support maybe for somebody else. It could also be something that helps bring you closer to your religion, to your friends, to your family, not taking life for granted. So I don't know. Those are just some examples I think that we can all share on too. Yeah, so I hope this has been helpful. I Again, I don't know how much more I really feel like I can share about my experiences, but I do try to like respond to any comments that I see come in through any of these videos. Um, it's nice to hear if any of these videos have been helpful to anybody else. It really again helps my journey too. So I appreciate those. And then one final video when I get to make it, because I feel like it's still ongoing. It's my own like journey of how I got it or how I even needed a bowel resection and ileostomy, because it certainly is something that the doctors at my large hospital academic institution had never seen before and called a medical mystery. So love that. So eventually probably my next and maybe probably last video will be just kind of an informational video about what happened, and that way if somebody happens to have a similar situation, that's has a lot of overlap, they'll see somebody else who went through it too. Because I tried to find somebody that had the exact same situation that I did online, and I could not find it. So anyway, if you're watching this, I assume you or a loved one are going through this journey, and I, from the bottom of my heart, just send nothing but joy, positive vibes, and wishing you comfort in some of the most difficult days ahead. And know that each week will get a little better, even if it's hard to see. And there are so many people out here who are going through similar experiences or have. And sometimes you just have to try to find them. And support groups and even some Facebook groups are some really good places to find people too, who are going through the same things in real time. So I hope you, if you haven't found your people yet, there are people out there for you to connect with. So best of luck, wishing you all well. 2023 is hopefully our year, or whatever year, if you're watching this a different year, that year is going to be your year. So we're going to manifest it. All right, take care, everyone.